Hello, welcome to Introduction to Research Methodology, and my name is Prof. Dr. Azilah Kasim. We'll be looking at this subject matter in the context of tourism, hospitality, and event. Okay, as in any research that we do, there are three parts that are involved. Yeah, first is the preparation part. So before we start everything, we have to do some kind of preparation. Yeah, we have to understand what we need in order to prepare for academic research. Okay, and the second part of the research that we do is the data collection. This is where we try to collect information, and from that information we will make inferences or analyze the data so that we have a better understanding towards what problem or research problem that we are looking at. And the last part of any research process would be data analysis. Data analysis is the part where we make inferences and then we make sense of the inferences that we have encountered. This is where we bring back the information that we get from the data that we have analyzed into the literature and make some sense out of it so that we can make implications that can be shared to the world. Okay, so in this whole subject that we will be looking at throughout this semester, we will be looking at all the concepts within these three dimensions of research. Okay, so we will be looking at some introduction about research, approaches in research, how do we start out, issues related to research ethics, the range of methods that are out there when we are doing research, things that we have to know about reviewing the literature. Okay, and then we look at also the phase of data collection, where we'll look at the secondary data, observation, qualitative, questionnaires, experimental data, case studies, and sampling. When we look at secondary data, we will also be looking at how we analyze secondary data. Okay, how we analyze qualitative data, survey data, statistical data, as well as how we prepare a research report when it comes to the last part, which is to communicate the results. Okay, so this whole thing here is the process of data, research in academia. So, introduction to research. When we want to do a research, especially academic research, that means we have to do something that is systematic. So we have to understand, first of all, what is it that we are trying to do? What is research? Why do we study research? Who does research? Who can pay for research? Because research is not a free endeavor. You have to have some cost involved, and there must be some funding to cover the cost. Okay, and how do we provide output about the research related to the research? Yeah, how do we share the outputs of the research? So when we talk about what is research, it is actually, according to Norbert Elias, to make known something previously unknown to human beings. Okay, so when we are doing research, we are uncovering something new. Okay, and this uncovering or this new information would advance our knowledge and also make us better understand certain things, which hopefully could contribute towards a better quality of living. Okay, according to Norbert Elias, the aim of research is discovery. Okay, to find something, to discover something new that can be useful for us as human beings. Other definitions on research could also include systematic investigation. That's the keyword. Yeah, systematic means it has order, it has steps that you have to follow, and it is not just some kind of random acts. Okay, so it is a systematic investigation into and study of materials and sources in order to establish facts and reach new conclusions. This is the dictionary given by Oxford. As knowledge is cumulative here means it builds over time. So that's why we need to search and search again. And it's the word research. Yeah. So we need to do something new and do it again and again in order to get more and more new information that as cumulatively can make some sense into what we are looking at. If we don't do research, then we have to rely on other things that give us information, such as the authority, or the tradition, or common sense, or media myths, or our own personal experience. Okay, authority here means we accept something that comes from people that we consider as authority as true. Just because this person has a position of authority, and we use what they say as our source of knowledge. Is this a good thing? Of course not, because person in position of authority are also human being. They also make mistake, and they are also not comprehensive in their knowledge on things. Okay, so if we accept the source of information from authority as true, then we will be exposed to biasness. When we talk about tradition, tradition means what has been done for generations in the past, and because it has been done for generations, we accept it as the way it has always been, so therefore it must be true. Okay, which is also inaccurate because tradition changes with time. Yeah, so what we did like 10, 20 years ago may have to change a little bit due to forces such as technological advances, societal changes, or anything that has evolved and changed over time and no longer holds true according to what was believed traditionally. Okay, so that's why tradition is also not a good source of information if we want to do for us to believe something is true. And then common sense. You all know what common sense means. It is just relying on what everybody knows and something that just makes sense. Okay, so just because something is common sense doesn't mean that it's true. Okay, so you have to still do some kind of investigation in order to determine whether what is common sense is also true. Okay, if we don't do research, we may just be depending on the media. The media could be the social media, which is now what people go for in order to get their information. And you can see how chaotic it can be when people believe in social media, news in social media, because there's no assurance that the sources are really true with their information. Okay, so the media, electronic media, social media, printed media, these are sources of information, but whether they are true or not, it has to be questioned still. Okay, because accepting any of the above, either authority, tradition, common sense, or media, as true stops us from thinking critically for ourselves. Okay, so we need to be critical in our thinking. We have to question. Being critical means we have to question things. Okay, so that's why we do research. When we do academic research, it is an organized and systematic way of finding answers to research questions that we have. So that's why there are steps. You have to follow step 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. Okay. Why is it systematic? It is systematic because there is a definite set of procedures or steps which we will follow. There are certain things in the research process which are always done in order to get the most accurate results. So we have to plan. We have to do all these preliminary things in order to make sure that our results in the end are not rubbish or as accurate as possible in answering the problem that we have. Yeah, it has to be organized because there needs to be a structure or method in going about doing research. Okay, it is a planned procedure, not a spontaneous one. You don't just do it, but you do it with proper planning. It is focused and is limited to specific scope. Because when we do research, we're not trying to solve all the problems of the world. We cannot. It's just not possible. So that's why every single research that each of you do would contribute just a tiny speck of knowledge into the entire picture. Okay, that's all that we can do. That's the most practical aspect of doing research. Okay. It's not possible, it's not practical to try to solve the world's problem. Research is also about finding answer, okay? Whether it is the answer to a hypothesis, we will learn what a hypothesis is later on, or even a simple question or assumption. Research is successful when we find answers, okay? Even a no is still an answer, okay? Because either yes or no, it gives us something new, something, an update on the information that we are looking at. What is the nature and purpose of the research? What is research and why do we do research? Okay, so the nature of it is that it has to be systematic. It is a systematic inquiry. You know what the word inquiry means? Inquiry means trying to find information, trying to understand something. Yeah, so it is systematic inquiry. Research can be the foundation of knowledge. You know, as I mentioned just now, when each of you do a research, each of you will be contributing a tiny aspect of the knowledge, but put together, it becomes the foundation of the knowledge. Okay. Research is also about discovery, making known something that we previously do not know. We discover something when we do research. That's why we have to have preparation, we have to have data collection, go out to the field and ask the correct target respondent, because we're trying to understand something new, something that we did not know. Okay. When we do research, the findings can help us improve our activities or our what we do. Okay, so it is the key to reflective practice. And when we do research, we can solve problem. But at the same time, we can also provide information or a basis for future researcher to continue studying that particular issue of that particular topic. Because when we do our research, there will be a part where we have to write about recommendation for future researcher. Okay, so we create or we suggest to them where else is the gap of research, what else they should do in order for everybody to understand the issue much better. Okay, why do we need to do research? First of all, is to advance knowledge, because if we do not do research, then we do not know anything new. Okay, so we keep on searching for new information through research to advance what we already understand about something. It is also to solve practical problems. Perhaps we are looking at managerial issues such as staff absentees. Okay, so we have to do research to understand why our staff not coming according to accordingly. Why do they skip work, or why do they call in sick a lot of times? There must be some underlying reasons. Okay, so those are practical problems that we need to understand through also research. Okay, sometimes we do research to make a difference. For example, just now, when we look at the managerial issue of staff absentee, why we want to do that research, beside understanding, then maybe we want to change our SOP or the way we run things, so that the staff will not be absent anymore. They will be motivated to come to work. They will come to work punctually. And so everything will be improved. So that is making a difference, okay? And also, when we do research to stimulate new research, this is the same as problem creating just now, where we, based on what we have found, we suggest to future researcher what else they need to do in order to have a better understanding on the situation. Scientific research. Scientific research is conducted within the rules of science, and it is based on logic and systematic examination of evidence. Evidence here means the data that we get from our interview, from our survey, from our observation, from any of the method that we have adopted or chosen to use for our research. Okay, so a good scientific research can ideally be replicated or repeated. That means whatever that you do, if you do it properly, then future people can adopt the same method that you use and create their own research. All right, so social science research is different from scientific research because here we deal with people. Deal with people because we are in an industry that relates to tourists. Yeah, tourists are our customers, so we have to constantly have to understand them so that we can serve them better. Yeah, and beside tourists, we also have all the other stakeholders that is equally important. Yeah, they are equally important for us to understand, such as the employees or the authorities. Yeah. This is why our context is social science. We deal with people either individually or in the form of formal groups. Yeah. So when we research them, we have to use methods and traditions that are suitable for social science. Yeah, not scientific. Pure science. Yeah, so we have to use methods that are suitable to deal with this research, because we deal with people. So we have to understand that the challenges involved when dealing with people. Therefore, social science research is not easy to replicate. Yeah, because as we know, what is happening this year may change next year. Yeah, a very stark example is the whole industry itself, which involves tourism, hospitality, and event. This year we have been challenged by the COVID-19 pandemic, which really affected all fragments of the industry. Yeah, so we have issues such as international travel not being allowed, We have issues such as businesses have to close because there are no customers. We have issues such as the ban on international travel. Yeah, we have issues such as how to market to domestic tourists. So all this we did not have to deal with last year when there was no pandemic. Last year the business was as usual. We didn't have to understand how to deal with the challenges related to an issue such as the COVID-19 pandemic. Yeah, so the issues changes every year. Yeah, maybe next year we will have another problem that we have to research and understand. Yeah, so we don't know. But what we know is that it is all very changeable, very dynamic, okay? And we have to also understand that when we deal with people, people are not predictable. They change a lot in terms of their ideas or their perception or what they think about something. Yeah, because as human being we are constantly bombarded with all kinds of influencing factors such as the social media, our economic situation or everything that can mix up change our stand or our perception about things. Yeah, so the social world is constantly changing, so that's why we have to make sure that we follow what is suitable to understand a dynamic phenomenon like the social science phenomenon. Okay, and also there's the issue of ethics, because when we deal with people, some people may not like being studied or being observed or being a subject of a research. So that's why the issue of ethics is very important. That means we have to make sure we have the full consent and we abide by all the ethical rules related to studying people. Okay, when we talk about research, there is a basic research and there is also the applied research. That's another two ways of looking at research. Yeah, basic research is driven by a scientist's curiosity and interest in a scientific question. The motivation is to expand knowledge. Yeah, so the papers or the output of this research would be a conceptual paper talking about philosophy, talking about concepts, talking about ideas proposed by the scientist or the researcher. Okay, and it is not to create or invent something, it is to expand knowledge to from what we already know to something new, to another dimension of that knowledge. Okay, so for basic research, there is no commercial value to the discoveries. Yeah, but because it relates mostly to theories, frameworks, and models that are being constructed and supported or argued by that scientist based on his or her research. Yeah, so basic research is normally done by academicians, by philosophers, by professors, because they will introduce like a model, a research model that maybe then people in the industry or the students can adopt and apply and make it an applied research. Okay, so when someone does a basic research, it is basically to test an existing theories in order to confirm the theory or modify the theory, change it, or reject the theory, say that it is not a good theory. Yeah, so this kind of research can be exploratory, descriptive, or explanatory in nature. Exploratory comes from the word explore. That means you just introduce some variables according to your assumption, not based on some pre-existing theories. Yeah, or you can just describe what is there, or explain what you find. Yeah. So basic theory, as I mentioned just now, is usually conducted by academics, scholars, or research bodies or agencies. Whereas applied research comes from the word apply. That means you know something and you are applying that particular theory or concept into a real issue, a real phenomenon. Yeah. So normally this kind of research is done to seek to solve practical problems. Yeah, for example, the issue of customer satisfaction. Yeah, customer satisfaction may be solved using the model introduced by Parasuraman model. That's how we do the applied research. Yeah, so this kind of research generally is designed to gather information relating to the problem, issue, or planning need. Okay, so basically when we do applied research, we want to solve a real problem. Okay, we are not really interested to expand the basic knowledge, but to use whatever existing knowledge we know to solve a real issue or real problem. Okay. So one example of this would be, how do we increase youth involvement in homestay business? Yeah, we could. There are so many theories that we can use in order to do this applied research. Yeah, we maybe stakeholder theory or many other theories that relate to the homestay business or the involvement of stakeholders into a tourism business. Yeah. Applied research is conducted for the purpose of applying, testing theory, and evaluating its usefulness in solving problem. It's practical in nature. Yeah, so it involves elements of application of findings into practice. What data that we have or gathered from our fieldwork, and the inferences that we will make will be beneficial for us to help us in our planning or our policy making. Yeah, or our problem solving. Okay, so applied research is a very practical type of research. Okay. So normally, private corporations, government agencies, they are very interested to do applied research because there are so many managerial problem or policy effectiveness issues that they need to test. They need to find out more. So that's why they do applied research. When we do research, we can explore research. Yeah, we can use the exploratory approach, which means we study it with very little or no information about the situation that we're looking at. So that's why we explore. Or we can use a descriptive study where whatever that we find, yeah, we will just describe it, yeah, looking at it non-critically, yeah, or we can just explain, yeah, we can do an explanatory research in which the outcome will help us explain how and why things are the way that they are, yeah. For example, young people um, why do young people enjoy motorcycle speeding or motorcycle racing so much? That is, and if we do an explanatory research, we will try to find out why they enjoy this particular sport so much. Yeah. Also, if we are trying to understand our employee behavior, let's say you own a restaurant or own a hotel, and you are trying to understand how your employee behave if you introduce some kind of reward system, for example. Yeah. So explanatory research will enable you to do that. Okay. Or a slightly more complicated research is causal research. Yeah, causal research is a kind of research that will study relationship between variables, whether something causes something. Yeah, so when we do causal research, this is normally what academic research is about. We have to have two types of variables: the independent variables and the dependent variables. Independent variables will affect or is assumed to affect the dependent variables. Yeah. For example, the dependent variable would be job satisfaction. what would be the independent variable? It could be adequate salary, or a good mentor, or good management, yeah, something like that. So when we do causal research, we want to see if there's any relationship between the independent variable and the dependent variable. When we do comparative research, this comes from the word compare. Of course, when we compare, we have to have two things that we look at and see how they are, say, the same or different from one another. Okay, so we do a comparative study on, for example, two samples, yeah, about something. Yeah, for example, you study the difference between gender, men and women, how they react to certain things, or men, how they are involved in business, yeah, in tourism business, or in hospitality related business, or event management business. So, yeah, so basically what we do when we do comparative research is to compare two different entities. Or we can do evaluative research, yeah, where we do not need two, we need just one, but we evaluate this particular issue, or this particular program, or this particular policy in depth. Yeah, in depth means taking a look at all the angles related to that programs or policy. So we make a detailed evaluation. Or we do predictive research. Predictive research comes from the word predict. Predict means we try to forecast, or we try to estimate or gauge the future. Okay, so based on what we know, we try to make assumption of what will happen in the future. That is the what we get when we do predictive research. So here's a diagram of everything that I have already mentioned to you just now. Okay, so in terms of type of research, can be basic or pure, yeah, research, or applied research, yeah. And for each of this type of research, there are approaches that are suitable for them. Yeah, for example, for basic research, we can use exploratory, descriptive research, explanatory research, or causal research. Yeah, whereas if we do applied type of research, then we can use all the approaches. Yeah, we can do exploratory approach research, descriptive approach research, yeah, explanatory research, causal, comparative, evaluative, predictive, and applied research. Okay, so for each of these, again, we have to also decide the methodology that is suitable. But basically, there are three ways or three types of methodology that we can adopt: qualitative, quantitative, or mixed methodology. Okay, mixed methodology, will be a combination, any kind of combination of qualitative and quantitative, in order to generate the answer to our research question. So basically, when we select what methodology, what approach, what methodology of our study, we have to basically go to the objective of your research. What is it you are trying to accomplish? Because this is what will dictate your research design or research strategy. Okay, always look at the objective of your research. That's very important. That's like the most fundamental thing you have to remember when you're thinking about doing an academic research. Characteristics of a good research is, of course, these things. Yeah, first of all, it has to be objective. Yeah, when we do an objective studies, that means we do not study with preconceived bias about something. Yeah, we do not have our own idea about something, and we expect the finding to be the same as our initial idea, yeah, because that means we are being subjective, yeah. So we have to be objective, because an objective study will generate valid and reliable results, yeah. So when we have valid and reliable results, we can generalize it to the wider population, yeah. So this is where most people prefer to do quantitative research, yeah, because when we assume the positivist paradigm, we are seeking for an objective kind of research, not the subjective kind which is offered by the interpretivistic paradigm. Um, so objective means neutral from any subjective thinking or biasness. Valid means it really portray what it's supposed to portray. Reliable means it's consistent across different studies. Yeah, and generalizable means it is realistic and can be assumed to be true for the entire population. Okay. A good research will also be carefully formulated. Yeah, the problem is carefully formulated, carefully defined. You have your operational definition specifically formulated, because operational definition will determine how we measure our variables. Yeah, so that's why we have to have a very good operational definition. Yeah. We also have to have a good understanding of the surrounding context, because remember, when we do social science, things can be contextual. Yeah, it depends on the current situation. Yeah, that will ensure that our study, our results are valid. Yeah, if we disregard the context, then maybe our research will not be valid, because it does not portray the real context. Okay, data collection has to be credible. That means we have to, when we design our study, we have to make sure our unit of analysis is the one that can generate information to answer our research objective. Yeah, so we need to really give it a thought about who we are studying. Yeah, who will we interview or sample or survey for our research. Yeah. It also involves appropriate and competent analysis. Yes, analysis is very important, because especially for quantitative, if you do not do a good analysis, then maybe the outcome is not really good. Yeah, it's not really meaningful. Garbage in, garbage out. Yeah, this is especially true if we do not really know how to use SPSS for our quantitative data. Yeah, or if we do not do our thematic analysis of qualitative data properly. Yeah, so we have to have a competent and appropriate analysis. Okay. And so we also need to have a good interpretation of our research finding and preparedness to acknowledge contradictory. This means sometimes our results are not exactly as we thought it would be. Yeah, so we still have to accept that as our result, and try to justify it in by looking more closely into the context. Why is it that the finding is this way? There must be a reason. Yes, and then you provide that reason. You justify your findings, because your finding is still valid. Yeah, it depicts the real context. So that's why you have to be prepared to acknowledge any contradictory findings that you have. A good research will also be based on an open system of thought. That means no biasness. Yeah? A critical examination of the data. This is very important. That's why when we do academic research, you have to review the literature critically, so that you can be sure that you have a thorough understanding of the issue that you're looking at before you actually do your research. Good research should also be able to be generalized and specify the limits of their generalization. Some type of research cannot be generalized. For example, if we do case studies, if we do a case study approach, that means whatever we study, the data is relevant only to that particular case study that we are looking at. It's not advisable to generalize it to the bigger population if we are just looking at a subsegment of the population. Okay. So basically then research plays an important role in tourism, hospitality and event because it's very useful to give us information on how to plan our event, our hotel management or marketing or our destination. Yeah, how to manage all the issues that we are facing on a daily basis in our context. Okay, and research can also allow us to assess impacts. Yeah, it can be social impacts, environmental impacts, economic impacts, but through research, we will be able to understand systematically how much certain things impacts the industry. It can also offer us insights into the motivations, the needs, the expectation, and level of satisfaction of tourists or employees. Yeah, so this is the psychographic aspect of the industry. Yeah, we need to understand our tourists in order to be able to serve them better. That's the basic bottom line. So if we don't understand them, then we do not know what will make them happy. Okay, so we need to also know how to target them, how to market to them. So in order to do that, we have to understand what motivates them to come to our destination, what motivates them to choose our hotel, what motivates them to attend our event. Yeah, so that's why we have to understand all this. And a good research will also will highlight the educational needs that tourism, hospitality, and event will need in order to make the industry better. Okay, so there are a lot of roles that research can play for our industry. Research can also generate temporal views of the past, present, and future. Temporals here means time. Yeah, so we can assess the industry, like for example, a decade ago, or the current situation of the industry, or even make forecasting or prediction of our industry in the future. Maybe, now that we are faced with the problems of the pandemic, there are so many things that we have to predict, yeah, so that we can try to make sure that the industry goes back up or goes enjoy growth again after the pandemic is over. Yeah, maybe we need to understand what is it that we need to do in order to overcome all the challenges that is being posed by this pandemic. Yeah, so that's why we have we can predict, do a prediction research, predictive research. Research can also offer data for the use of business in terms of marketing and promotion. Yeah, and allow comparison to be made and policies to be developed. We have already touched this again. So any information that we get from our research can be useful for any aspect of our business. Yeah, that's why we need to do research. And research can also enable operators, tourism bodies, and government to evaluate issues in a variety of contexts. This is even more true now, yeah, as our Ministry of Tourism, our Tourism Malaysia are facing with the challenge of how to boost our tourism industry back up after all the challenges that we have been facing since March. Yeah. So when we do research, there are research that is used for academic reason, and there are research that is used for practical reason. Okay, so university lecturers will be doing academic research. This kind of research advances knowledge and understanding of the subject. That's why some people, some of academicians will do basic research or pure research, where they expand on a theory to validate the theory or to expand the theory. Yeah, but for practitioner, they do not do basic research. They do not do pure research. Basically, practitioners, they need to do applied research. Yeah, because practitioners work in a contractual, project-specific, and profit-driven environment. So they need to constantly find ways to make sure the business is profitable. Yeah, so that's why the research has to have some practical implication that they can use to further improve the business. Yeah, the research has to be useful for the purpose of their business. For academics, it is the purpose of doing research is to disseminate information through teaching, publications, and conferences. Yeah, so people like me, in the working in the university, we often do research that we later will share through conferences. We attend international conferences, so that we can share our findings and get feedback from the international community about our finding. Yeah, and so during conferences, the academicians will learn from each other, research, and expand knowledge in that way. Yeah. Whereas for practitioners, the main reason for doing research is to disseminate information through the reports, the plan, or the studies that have been commissioned and have very limited circulation. That means the output of the finding is not for the general public to read, but more so for the agency that the research is done for. Yeah, so usually this the consultant will be doing the research, and the outcome of the research will be presented back to the funder or the agency that has appointed the consultant to do this applied research. Okay. Academician aims to educate and influence students, academic, and the industry through research, whereas practitioners aim to develop their expertise and reputation to secure further work through research. Yeah, so those are the differences between academic research and practical research. Yeah, by the academics and the practitioners. Who else does research? We already look at the academics just now, and why they do research. Also, you guys, students, yeah, students have to do research for projects or thesis. Yeah, maybe at undergraduate level, you may need to do a mini thesis later on. Yeah, so you need to know how to do research. Okay. And the government or the NGO or commercial organization, they also do research, usually to examine a policy. Yeah, usually to understand how to improve a business decision, a management decision. Yeah, and they usually assign this work to consultants. Yeah, independent consultants who will then do the study and give the feedback back to them. Okay. In a business, when managers do research, it's usually to they do it on their customers to understand their current customers better, so that they can improve the service quality. They can also do research on potential customers. Yeah, do a market research. They can appraise the environment. And this environment can be market environment, social environment, or physical environment. Physical environments means nature, air quality, water quality, and then the like. Yeah. They can also do research on sales, efficiency, or performance of their staff. Yeah, and also on motivation of their employees. Yeah. Some managers will also conduct research on competitors. They want to know what the competitors are up to, what the competitors are doing, so that they will try to, they will have a better information on how to design their own strategies to be more effective than the competitors. Okay. And some managers conduct research on the products and the existing products or the new products that they are launching, so that they know whether the customers like the product or not. Okay. When we do research, it is not easy, because, and also it's not free. Yeah, research costs a lot of money, because you need to hire research assistants, you need to hire maybe somebody to do the literature review for you, yeah, or the whole process of going to the field and collecting data is very expensive, because it involves travel, accommodations for staying overnight and things like that. So who pays for all this cost? Yeah, a research can be paid by you when you do it for yourself, or for the purpose of your own purpose, or you can get, if you're working in the university, university staff, then you can get the university to fund your grant, to give you a grant. This is an internal grant, yeah, university internal fund. Oh, if you are already working in the university, you can try to seek funding from government councils, yeah, or private trusts. That means you offer consultation to a private entity and get money from them, yeah. Or we can get the industry to fund the research. Yeah, the industry means, let's say you want to understand, you seek money from certain hotel, because you offer them service that you can study their guest satisfaction and give them feedback, for example. Yeah, so this is again a form of consultation. So the money will come from the one who want the research to be done. Yeah, so they are the ones who pay for the research in the first place. In terms of output means what we get at the end of the research. Yeah, how do we disseminate the research? It can be through all these ways. Yeah, for the academician, they usually write journal articles from their research finding, and then publish this research article, so that other researchers can also read the articles. Yeah. If the researcher is in the professional, uh, 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 they are professionals, such as, the doctors, the lawyers, and all those professional job. They will write articles that can be read by their own community, the professional community. Yeah, accounting, all that. Besides journal article, conference papers or conference presentations are also a good way to disseminate a research finding, as I have already mentioned to you just now. We can also write books, but of course books takes time. But still, a book can be useful for reference in the academic community. Yeah, and also the output can be in the form of reports to any of the marketing or agency that needs this kind of policy planning and management report. Okay, so it can be a policy statement, it can be a market profile research, market research that targets new market, yeah, market segmentation to understand the market better, feasibility studies to understand about a new product or a new destination or a new way of doing things, yeah. Leisure needs studies, tourism strategies or marketing plans or forecasting studies. All these can be shared through management or planning or policy reports. So that's it for now. This information can be also is taken from these readings, Bill and Jennings. So I encourage you to go through these references to understand further what I have already shared with you. But otherwise, please don't shy away from using the internet to understand more about research methodology, because there's a humongous amount of information out there in the internet about research methods. Yeah, so if you are you can do this on your own. You can study on your own on things that you do not understand from the lecture. Okay, so with that, have a nice day and take care of yourself.